Gauranga! 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 Can you hear me? I guess you can hear me. Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. So time is short. We have a play after this and the slideshow. So proceed. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. And Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. And Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bo. So before I begin, I'd like to offer my obeisances to my spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachavine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatayane. So on this glorious Purnima festival day, welcome to everybody. I feel very honored to be able to speak. I didn't know until a couple of days ago that I was supposed to speak, so if things were a little ragged, that's why. And we have a little slideshow for you afterward of some verses about Lord Chaitanya, things like that. So I'm going to begin with quoting a verse that many of you know, if not almost all of you, that was first spoken by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami when they first encountered Lord Chaitanya, when he came to where they were living. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvije Namaha. Now I'm quoting from the introduction to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm going to read Srila Prabhupada's translation here and his little commentary on this verse. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is more munificent than any other avatar, even Krishna himself, because he is bestowing freely what no one else has ever given, pure love for Krishna. Close quote. Lord Chaitanya's teachings begin from the point of surrender to Krishna. He does not pursue the paths of karma yoga or jnana yoga or hatha yoga, but begins at the end of material existence, at the point where one gives up all material attachment. Can we close those doors? We can turn on the air conditioning if need be, believe it or not. Yes. We have heat and we have air conditioning. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins his teachings by distinguishing the soul from matter. And in the 18th chapter, he concludes at the point where the soul surrenders to him in devotion. The Mayavadis would have all talk cease there, but at that point, the real discussion only begins. As the Vedanta Sutra says at the very beginning, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now let us begin to inquire about the supreme absolute truth. Rupa Goswami thus praises Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent incarnation of all, for he gives the greatest gift by teaching the highest form of devotional service. In other words, he answers the most important inquiries that anyone can make. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I'd like to refer to a few verses at the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Many of you are familiar with these verses. They're called the Mangalacharan. These verses are traditional for any substantial literary work written in the Vedic line. And they have various functions. They lay out the subject matter that's going to be talked about. There's also verses, one or more verses that offers benedictions to the reader. There are prayers. And in this way, the Mangalacharan really sets the mood for the entire book. So in this Mangalacharan, I'm just going to focus on the verses. There's verses about Lord Chaitanya, and verses about Nityananda, and verses about Advaitacharya, and the Panchatattva, like that. But I'm just going to focus on the ones about Lord Chaitanya. So in the third verse of the whole book, which I think was composed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, that this sets out a proposition, a statement, that is really the foundation of this whole Krishna consciousness movement. And that is simply that Lord Chaitanya is the same as Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, is God. Really everything rests on these central principles. First of all, you have to believe in God. There is a God. Who is that God? That God is Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya is the same Krishna. Those three propositions, if you have faith in them, then you proceed in Bhakti Yoga in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. So this verse is as follows. It says, how's it start? See, now my memory is going. So, okay. Yes. Yadadvaitam brahmo panashadi tadapyasya tanubha. Yatmantaryami purusha atiso sanksha vibhavaha. Shadaishvaryai purno yahiya bhagavan sasvayamayam nachaitanyat krishna jagati padatatvam padamiha. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body. And the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Now, it's interesting, because I quoted at the beginning the Maha-mantra, and Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Chaitanya is even more merciful than Krishna. But of course, he is Krishna. So, but think about it a minute. We're studying Bhagavad Gita every night. You're all invited, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, at 7:15 to 8:15. You can catch it in person or online. And we're just in the 2nd chapter now. But at the final, after he goes through all the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, and comes to Bhakti Yoga, those middle 6 chapters, and then there's those last 6 chapters, and finally he comes to the essence of the whole thing, 2 verses. Manmana bhavamad bhakto, those who know can chant along. Manmana bhavamad bhakto, madhyajim nam namaskuru, mamai vaishasi satyam te, pratijane priyosime. Sarva dharma parityaja, mame kam sharanam braja, aham tvam savapapebhyo mokshiyasyami mastuchaha. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety be free. Now this is a wonderful benediction from Krishna. Just think of him. And of course, we know the best way to think of him is to chant Hare Krishna, so that's there. And become devoted, well, that's Bhakti Yoga. And bow down low, stay humble, all of these four processes, which we do. We come to the temple, and basically we do all 4 of them. And then the result is, you'll come to me, O friend. He promised. This verse is repeated from the 9th chapter. You're eternally my friend, but you'll understand my friendship. You'll cement the friendship. You'll nourish it. And then he says, give up all other considerations. Everything else I've spoken about Karma Yoga and Dhyana Yoga and all of this. Don't worry about that. Just surrender unto me. Everything will be fine. I'll nullify any sinful reactions. So Prabhupada explains in that little commentary in the introduction to the Maha-mantra that Lord Chaitanya's teachings begin where Krishna's leave off. He begins from the point of surrender. And we see that in his pastimes, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that, of course, in his preaching in South India, basically he was just chanting Hare Krishna. And people would come and they would hear the chanting and they would attain pure love of God. And this is short-circuiting the whole process. He is bestowing. That's why he's the most munificent. It means generous. And he's giving it. If you simply hear, you simply take part in the kirtan, and you then pursue it by learning the science of bhakti and associating with devotees, then anyone from any station in life, from any position, any gender, doesn't matter, you can become purified and attain the final goal of existence, which is pure love for Krishna, which is a straight ticket back to Godhead. So your whole mission in life is successful just by taking up this process of devotional service. So having understood this verse, then we get to this explanation of the two different reasons for Lord Krishna's coming as Lord Chaitanya. One is internal and one is external. And the external reason is to spread the Sankirtan movement, to give out pure love of Godhead. And that's explained in one verse that comes up here. Anarpita Charim Chara. This is within the introduction of Mangalacharan of the Vidagdha Madhava. Vidagdha Madhava is a play written by Rupa Goswami about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. It's a very wonderful play. If you're curious, get a Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you don't have one already, and go to Antilila chapter 1. There's many beautiful verses quoted there. From that. So, what does this verse say? This is a benediction verse. May that Supreme Lord who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi be forever situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the hue of molten gold, he has appeared in this age of Kali after a long time to give what no other incarnation has ever given before. The most sublime and effulgent mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love of Krishna, Radha and Krishna Prema. So that's his external reason. He's preaching, and he did that extensively, both in Navadvip, and after he took sannyas, of course, he went all over South India and up into Vrindavan. And wherever he was infusing thousands of devotees with love of God. And not only that, but he would empower others to be able to spread love of God. This is described in his South Indian tour. But then we have the internal reason for Krishna's appearing as Lord Chaitanya. And that's explained also in this Mangala Charana. Shri Radhaya Pranya Mahima Kidrishavanayabas Vadyo Yenad Buddha Madhurima Kidrishovamadiya Saukyam Chasya Mononobhavata Kidrisham Veti Lobhat Tadbhavadya Samajana Shachi Garbha Sindhu Harindu. Beautiful verse. So in this verse, Krishnadas Kaviraj is quoting the inner thoughts of Krishna in the spiritual world. So the first one is Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima. He wants to understand the glory of Srimati Radharani's love for himself. There's a little pastime here. Krishna's in the portion of the spiritual world where the Dwarka is there. So he's in one of his big palaces, and he looks either in a mirror-like floor or a pillar, and he sees his own face. He sees his own form. And he says, oh, how beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful. But I can't relish this beauty from my position. I need to take the position of Srimati Radharani. Through the lens of her pristine and perfect love, she appreciates Krishna's qualities more than anyone else. That's the idea. And so that's the first of the threefold inner reasons. Then he wants to Asvadya Yenad Buddha Madhurima Kidushavamadiya. Because he knows that he has all of these wonderful qualities, the beauty and the 64 qualities and all of these different things. And he says, I want to know my own qualities from her point of view. Because from my own point of view, I can't understand as much as she understands. And the third one is he wants to taste the ananda, the unlimited, ever-increasing bliss that she feels by loving him and being loved by him. So therefore, what's the solution? He has to appear in the mood of Radharani. And that's Lord Chaitanya. With the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani is Krishna himself. Now, of course, Lord Chaitanya often denied that he was Krishna. When he was addressed as Vishnu, he would shut his ears, you see, and he would say, no, no, no. You know, the living entity should not be confused with Vishnu. But there are times when he revealed that. In Navadvip, he had something called the Mahaprakash. How many hours? 28 hours or something like that. And he had that. There he was situated in Srivas Thakur's house. And he sat down on the altar, and they worshipped him as God, and he accepted all the offerings, and he revealed different avatars. There's no question, you know, that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there are other times when he revealed, but mostly he was displaying that mood of a devotee, a perfect devotee. So those the internal and external reasons. Now, why is this important for us? Because we're aspiring to advance in devotional service. We should be, meaning that we want to become purer and purer so that we can taste this nectar of devotional service and more of the things that we read about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, They're all there. We're assured that this pure love for Krishna, this perfection of pure love for Krishna, is inherent in every living entity. I just listen to Prabhupada. I listen to his Prabhupada lectures every day. He's quoting Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shovanadi Shuddha Chitte Kodaye Udoi. This is his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. And what does that mean? The eternal perfection of prema, which is our eternal state, is inherent in every living entity. We all have it. And how do we discover it? Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte, by purifying our consciousness, beginning with hearing and chanting and all the process of devotional service we've been given. The consciousness becomes purer and purer, and it naturally awakens. It's spontaneously. It's not something that has to be brought from outside. It's nothing artificial. So isn't that encouraging? We all have that perfection within us. Prabhupada would compare it as just like a child. Anyone who's had a child, many of you have children, you know that at first they can't even, that reminds me of Krishna's pastime, where when the baby is born, he just lies on the back, right? More or less he's helpless. But then at a certain point he turns on his belly and he starts crawling, and then he's mobile, right? And then when he starts standing up and running, then you really have to pay. So there's a development there. And Prabhupada would say that the power to walk is there. It's already there. But it has to be developed. He stands up and walks and fall down, you know. Now, because he's so small, it doesn't hurt. He's just falling a few inches. But it's a struggle. He has to try and want to walk. And practically every child learns to walk, right? So it's inherent in, but it has to be developed. Similarly, this love for Krishna is inherent in all of us. And simply by the process of devotional service as given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, beginning with hearing and chanting the holy name, as we had so wonderful kirtan, thank you very much to Tikshva Karunika Prabhu. Many of you may not even know his full name. You probably know him as TK. But that's his official name. And it's always a pleasure when you come and chant for us, Hare Krishna. So it's so wonderful. You can feel there's an attraction there. You're feeling little dollops of bliss, right? Who wasn't, you know, you come a long way and come here because this is a holiday and things are flowing even more beautifully. So we all have that. And Lord Chaitanya's inner reason for appearing and doing what he did was to taste that. And that he specifically, especially demonstrated in the last 12 years. When he was in Jagannath Puri practically all the time, in the association of a few very intimates like Sri Damodar, Ramananda Roy, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a few others. And he would display these extraordinary symptoms of love of God, and great separation from Krishna, which looked from the outside like it's extreme suffering, but is actually the highest ecstasy. And we understand that. So the reason why I bring this up is that we also need to have those two channels in our devotional life. We certainly should want to advance in devotional service. If we don't, we won't. That desire has to be there, and we get that from association and from some experience in devotional service that says, yes, this is real, I should try to pursue this. So that needs to be cultivated. There's this famous verse about greed a long time ago. Many of you probably have never heard of this movie. I think I saw one before I joined. And one of the themes of the movie was greed is good. It's about the stock market and stuff like that. Well, we know that material greed is not good. We know that kama, krodha, lobha is said to be the three gates leading to hell in the 16th chapter. So this is not greed, but the greed or the strong desire for advancement in devotional service for Krishna has to be cultivated. It's a natural thing. It's been misdirected. We've been misdirected by absorption in the material energy. And that kama, as Srila Prabhupada famously explained at the end of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, such an illuminating section. Arjuna asks a question, Attakena prayukto yam papam charati purusha, anichanna bevashnaya kim, I forget the last line. But what is it that impels us to do things that we know are harmful, basically, that we know are bad for us? And what's the answer? Kama. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidyanam evainanam. He says, know for sure, Arjuna, that this is your real enemy. Not so much the soldiers on the other side. You know, they come and go. But your real enemy is that material desire, which is nothing but prema that has been curdled, if you will, into kama by contact with the modes of nature. We all have that prema. What happened to it? Because we turned away from Krishna and we became absorbed in the dualities of this material energy. We've been looking for pleasure through satisfaction of the senses and satisfaction of the mind and all of these things, life after life after life in all different species. And we've been in this dukkali and mashashatam, this ocean of misery and temporary life. But we don't have to stay here. By practicing devotional service, because we're human beings, we can redirect the senses by our intelligence, and that karma can again become transmuted into prema, sublimated. Prabhupada says in the purport, it's difficult, a light beginner, but it's possible to do. So that's the mission of Lord Chaitanya, externally, to give us a means, and that's what the whole thing with Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He taught Rupa Goswami for 10 days. He taught Sanatana Goswami for 2 months, wasn't it? And so that they would then systematically explain and lay out the science of devotional service and give examples of the fruits. In that nectar of devotion, there's so much nectar there, so many beautiful verses. I remember studying it. It was been translated by Bhanu Swami. There's one verse that's Kwanatakanakakinkani kalapam smitamuttam kadutatanatavita pinnamangre taniyamaveshananandananda patni. You know that one? You're just crocking on the beat. You know it? This is a verse about Krishna crawling toward his mother. In that classic pose, aren't there like probably 100 million households in India that have that little statue of a little baby Krishna with a butterball in his hand, right? Smiling. That's what this describes. So, Kwanatakanikakakinkanika is that his golden waist bells, he's got waist bells and he's got an effulgent pearl on his affixed to the tip of his nose. That's all he's wearing. And so he's crawling toward his mother with this fresh butterball in his hand, smiling. And this wonderful phrase, Nananda Nanda Patni. Nananda means delighted, and Nanda Patni is the name for Yashoda. This is the wife of Nanda. So it's just one verse describing maternal ras. You read Nectar of Devotion, you see all these rasas. So the idea is that this is we are given all of these gifts by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and his incredible effort and courage in beginning this movement, starting it, developing it. Now we can take advantage of it. We shouldn't waste any time. We don't know how much time we have left in this crazy world. And so we should really take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a great day to remember him. And read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The mood that's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is really the mood of the Hare Krishna movement. I remember, because as you may know, I've been editing since 75. And the first book that came out, some of you remember, is Adi 7. The seventh chapter. Prabhupada wanted to publish that first before any of the other books. And it has two very important sections. The first part is all about the Panchatattva. That's the chapter about the Panchatattva. And Prabhupada says they broke open the storehouse of love of God, and they spread, they flooded everywhere. They didn't care old, young, worthy or unworthy. Everyone was swept up in it, So that, and the purport there, Prabhupada is talking about his mission and how, all the wonderful things. And then there's a whole section of refutation of the Mayavad philosophy. Well, Lord Chaitanya, he's in Varanasi, and that's the home of the Mayavadis. And they saw him dancing and chanting, and they said he was initiated into that line. But instead of studying Vedanta, he's sentimentally chanting. There was criticism. So his devotees couldn't stand the blasphemy, so they begged him to please do something about it. So he accepted an invitation, which he otherwise wouldn't do, and he completely won over the Mayavadis. I can't go into detail of it, but he explained the Vedanta Sutra in the Bhakti way, which is actually the real way, the real understanding, and they all became his disciples. So those two, I think, inspired Prabhupada to have us publish that first. But the CC is full of just wonderful philosophy and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and wonderful, wonderful verses that you can meditate on. So please read it. Hopefully get a set yourself. You can worship it at home and read, or at least read it online. Everything's online now. So, okay, so I didn't want to not run out of time and not be able to do this little slideshow of verses about Lord Chaitanya and things. If there's any comments or questions, we can entertain them, but We do have a play coming. Yes, TK? We have a mic right there to your right. Just use it. Krishna's arrangement.
I was just wondering if you could comment on how rare it is that Lord Chaitanya appears in the material world.
Thank you for reminding us. So Lord Chaitanya appears after Krishna appears. Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma. That's a long time. It's over 8 billion years, the 24 hours of Brahma's time. So, Shri Radharani Hari ki jai, Shri Gaura ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ji ki jai. So, how fortunate we are. We should be flooded with gratitude. It's practically from 8 billion years, Lord Chaitanya appeared 540 years ago. It's practically yesterday. It's not even yesterday. It's like 2 minutes ago. So we're practically contemporaries, meaning we should take advantage of this opportunity, because otherwise you don't want to wait 8,600,000,000 years for the next time. So, and we should really feel how fortunate we are. The small number of people compared to the whole population of San Diego, that we're celebrating Lord Chaitanya's. We have a connection with him. Many of you are chanting regularly. And we should continue to progress in devotional service and try to invite others into this, because this is really life. This is the only way to be happy and peaceful in this world, which is difficult enough. And it's really gives you hope for the next life. Nobody dies. I came up with a little ditty, please forgive me. Everybody dies, body. Right? Everybody dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. Hare Krishna. So on that note, if you'll allow me, I have prepared a few verses. And just give me a second here. Because there's also a Krishna. Okay. So Srila Rupa Goswami in his Stavamala, he begins with 3 ashtakas about Lord Chaitanya. And there's some verses quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so I was especially attracted to this 3rd Chaitanya ashtaka, and I think you'll see why when we do the first verse. I have a selection of verses. Ready? 40 seconds. So in 40 seconds, I'll give you one verse from the Krishna Karnamrita. This is quoted twice in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyone can chant this verse to the deities. Madoram, 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 Vaparasya Vibhor, Madoram, Madoram, Vadanam, Madoram, Madhugandhi Mridusmita Metadaho, Madoram, 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 Madoram. You already memorized the last line. Right? Does anyone not know the last line? Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair. But his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. What do you think? Perfect, huh? Not my poem, but the verse. Okay, so I think we're ready. Right? Okay. So, forgive me. Bhavanti bhuvaye nada kadata dushkar lord pattayas tvamundada sitanapi pachada charu karunyataha iti pamadatantara shadanamashatatvamaham nashati sutamahi pabo kodamukunda mande kripam. Even low-born sinful souls entrapped in Kali's age, suffering unnumbered pains that no one can assuage, are instantly delivered when you kindly seek them out and flood them with your splendid mercy, making bhakti sprout. And so with heart rejoicing at your mercy's endless store, I take full shelter of your lotus feet and then implore, O Lord Chaitanya Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Okay, can everyone read those last 2 lines, please? O Lord Chaitanya Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Mukham Buddha Padiskalan, Mudalavan Madhuli Rasa, Pasanga Janitakila, Pranata Bringa Rangotkara, Samastadana Mangala, Pabhavanama Ratnam Budhe, Ashati Sutamahi Prabho, Akodamukunda Mande Kripam. Trickling from your lotus mouth, the honey nectar stream of your pure words enlightens all, and showers bliss supreme upon the humble bumblebees who are your devotees. What use to them are dry philosophies, austerities? You are an ocean full of gems, the holy names which bless all people on this planet with supreme auspiciousness. Everyone together? O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Vaganka Madodanana, Spudaninda Padmekshana, Smita Stabaka Sundara, Dadabashanka Torastata. Bujota the Bujangama, Prabhamanoja Koti Dute, Ashati Sutamahi Prabho, Ankodamakanda Mande Kripam. The beauty of your face defeats the full moon's soothing glow. From full-blown lotus petal eyes your loving glances flow. By clusters of your winning smiles your lovely lips are graced. Your chest is broad, your arms are like two glorious upraised snakes. Your handsome form defeats 100 million Kamadeves. And best of all, your mercy floods this world in endless waves. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Aham kanaka ketiki kusamagoda dishtaksito, the dosha labadarshita vivada dosha purne pite. Atak pranamaya, atak pravanayadaya, kripana vatsala tvam bhaje, ashati sutamai prabho. O Lord, His splendor calls to mind the golden daffodil. I am the lowest sinner in this world of sinners still. You overlook the faults of one whose faults are like an ocean, and bless him with the strength to practice unalloyed devotion. With this in mind, O Lord, who are most kind to fallen souls, I worship you with humble heart, devoid of mundane goals. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Okay, now these are a couple of other verses I wrote. They're not part of the Chaitanyastika. In Brajadam 5,000 years ago, Shri Radha worshipped Krishna without flaw. Along with other gopi friends, she showed a love for God most pure and free of all. In Mayapur 500 years ago, Shri Krishna came again to bless this age. This time Shri Radha's role he took to show her love for him which none can ever gauge. That golden avatar, Chaitanya Dev, taught love of God through chanting of the name. The wise are grateful for the gift he gave and tread devotion's path to spotless praying. And this is our final offering. As Lord Chaitanya wandered in the garden near Jagannath's great temple by the sea, in deep ecstatic trance with love most ardent, he cried, "O Krishna, please appear to me." Then suddenly he saw Shri Krishna standing beneath a tree and smiling beautifully. But in a flash he disappeared, abandoning Chaitanya to his restless ecstasy. For 12 long years in Puri, night and day, Chaitanya showed this state of love supreme. As Radha felt when Krishna went away, Chaitanya felt that pain and joy extreme. And that's the end of our little presentation. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. And now, we should have the lights.